When we can explain something, even if it's a lame excuse, it still feels familiar. But sometimes the world just strips away all the light and suddenly we feel like strangers in it. Albert Camus called that weird, disconnected feeling the absurd. It's not something that shows up on schedule. It's like a shadow hiding in the corner of a room, waiting for just the right moment to catch us off guard. We feel it in everyday life. One moment, everything feels normal. Then boom, it hits. Everything looks the same, but nothing feels right. Camus said it's like being an actor on stage. You've been there 100 times before, but suddenly the lights feel different. You feel lost, even on your own stage. Same with going to work. It's annoying, repetitive, and sometimes miserable. But most days we just pull ourselves together and do it anyway. And honestly, that's not a bad thing. But then there are those days when even the routine becomes unbearable, like drinking bitter medicine and tasting every drop. You can't stop noticing how much it sucks. And in that moment, all you want to do is quit, walk away, disappear. So, what do we do when the absurd shows up like that? Camus asked a scary question. Why not kill yourself? But he didn't mean it as a suggestion. Actually, it's the opposite. He believed that we should never take that road. He thought that once we really understand what the absurd is, we'll find a reason to say no to suicide. Because the absurd doesn't just make life feel pointless. It challenges us to respond, and suicide, that's just one kind of answer. So what did Camus really believe? He knew the absurd was something we all feel, but it's hard to explain with words. To get it, we need to understand something deeper, the weird relationship between us and the world. Humans are wired to make sense of things. We like reasons, patterns, logic. So when a baby is born with a serious problem, we turn to science to find out why. A causes B simple, right? But is that enough when you're the parent? Even if the science makes sense, your heart still screams, "Why, my child?" And that kind of question, it's everywhere. Turn on the news, kids in war zones, families wiped out by disasters. Even in our own lives, we see people struggling in ways that just don't make sense. And we can't help but ask, why them? But the world doesn't answer. It stays quiet, no explanation. It just happened, and all we can do is look up at the sky and whisper, why? Knowing we'll get nothing back, Camus said, when we face that silence, when we realize that maybe everything's just random. We start to feel this strange kind of nostalgia. We're so used to living in a world that seems logical, predictable, but sometimes that breaks down, and when it does, we see the truth. The world isn't built to satisfy our need for meaning. Camus didn't think the absurd was inside us or inside the world itself. He believed it lives in the space between. Humans want the world to make sense, but the world doesn't care. That gap between what we hope for and what actually is, that's where the absurd lives. It's not a thing. It's a relationship, one we all live with, whether we realize it or not. Let's be honest, for a lot of people, life feels like the same movie playing every day, same people, same scenes, same exact time, and even the rhythm of your day doesn't really change. Camus said that when life becomes too predictable, it gets easier to feel like none of it really matters. Your mind keeps looking for meaning, asking deeper and deeper questions, and in the end, you hit this one. Why don't I just end it? That's the big question Camus asked right away in the Myth of Sisyphus. He wasn't just talking about suicide. He was asking something bigger. If life is meaningless, can we still keep living? Camus said, we usually react in two ways. We either give up completely, or we turn to religion to find some kind of answer. And sure, ending your life might feel like a way to stop the pain, because the absurd exist between you and the world. And if you're not here, maybe the pain goes away too. Someone stuck in a job they hate, dragging themselves through every day, might think that ending it all is the only way to stop feeling so empty. But Camus said no, that's just escape. That's running away. So what about religion? It gives people comfort, right? Helps them survive the grind. Yeah, it does, but Camus thought it's still another way of avoiding the real question. Religion gives us stories. Like in Christianity, we're born with sin. There's a perfect God who loves us. Everything has a reason. But even if those stories help us feel better, there's still ways of covering up the absurd. They make us stop asking the hard questions. Camus believed we shouldn't cover it up. We should look the absurd in the eye. At some point, everyone feels it, that hollow feeling inside, and only then do we truly start asking, what's the point? We work hard so we can get promoted. We get promoted to gain status. Status makes us feel important, and feeling important gives life meaning. But then life hits, you get sick, you lose something, and all that meaning, gone, and the world stays quiet. Camus said 3 things. 1, we ask the world for answers. 2, the world stays silent. 3, our reason is useless here. To him, the absurd wasn't a mistake. It's part of being human. It's not something to escape. It's something to face and live with. Sisyphus got the worst deal. Every day he pushes this massive rock up a mountain, only to watch it roll all the way back down. And then he starts again. No end, no reward, just effort. Camus saw this as a symbol for all of us. Our daily grind, our endless cycles, the moments where it all feels pointless. But here's the thing. Sisyphus doesn't stop. He knows it's pointless, but he still does it. And that's rebellion. Not the kind where you break things, but the quiet kind. The kind that says, you can't control how I feel about this. Imagine 2 soccer teams. Team A is winning by a mile. Team B, no chance, but they don't walk off the field. They keep playing. Not to win, but to say, we don't quit. Sisyphus is like that. He pushes the rock, not because it'll stay up there, but because he chooses to. That's rebellion. And that choice, that's power. But even rebellion needs support. You need a way to carry on. That's where detachment comes in. Camus called it being indifferent. Not cold, just free from needing everything to have a reason. Once you see the world doesn't owe you meaning, you stop chasing it. You stop living by other people's rules. Kant said truth is a duty, always. But in a world like this, that kind of rule doesn't always fit. Sometimes we lie, sometimes we don't. Not because of some deep logic, but because we're alive, because we feel. Camus didn't want us to follow the script. He wanted us to write our own. Forget the pressure, forget the grades, the titles, the likes, the money. Let it go. You don't need to chase a perfect future. You can just be here. And yeah, we all die in the end. But that truth, it sets you free. You don't need to be anyone else. You don't need to prove anything. You're already here. That's enough. So if you feel like Sisyphus, tired, lost, going in circles, maybe it's not a sign of weakness. Maybe it's your strength. Face the absurd and choose your own way. Because in that choice, you'll find freedom. And in that freedom, you'll find something else. Passion. A deep, burning love for life, just as it is.